Okay, welcome back to Script Camp Pilot Bootcamp. This time we're going to try a unit on post-apocalyptic and dystopian shows, so kind of combining these two into one. There's a fair amount of crossover with these two different subgenres, so we're going to be looking at all the ways that they are similar, all the ways that they are different, and how to create something compelling and original and fun in this genre space. Let's dive right in. So this is the theme for this pilot bootcamp, but you don't have to be writing in this genre. We just like to give it that a little bit of extra specificity to make it feel different from all the other boot camps that we've done over the years. We are doing action horror next for features, and this is part of our Halloween sort of series of topics. So that one's going to be running 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays. And that runs for 8 weeks to write a whole feature film from beginning to end. We are continuing novel bootcamp as well on Saturdays from 12 to 2. That one runs all the way through the end of the year. So it is at about the 6-week mark of the 12-week total, but it is still not too late to join if you want to try to catch up, learn what we've been working on, see how the process works, and maybe start to get your outline in order for the next pilot bootcamp. But you'll have a head start if you can, if you join halfway. So by signing up on any of our sign-up sheets, which you saw in the chat, you'll get instant access to the exclusive chat channels for these different bootcamp groups. I think I heard Nacho. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to add also, I mean, you can be writing any genre. It's just like there's some little extra, tips if you are writing, say a post-apocalyptic show, but like you could be writing whatever, a comedy show, and you'll still get the benefit of like, help working through your script through the course of the boot camp.
Yep. Thank you for that. And not just that, but also Writers Lab twice a week, Fridays from 12 to 2. But nobody came by today. We got to get you guys in here tomorrow, Saturday from 4 to 6. That is the sessions where it's like office hours where you can come by and get one-on-one additional help and work done on whatever it is that you're working on, up to 5 pages of scripts or up to 1,500 words of prose. So, or as basically as many log lines as you can fit. It's like a all-you-can-eat log line buffet. So that is 2 2-hour sessions a week, Friday 12 to 2, Saturday 4 to 6. And if you are an unlimited member, you get access to all of that, every workshop, lab, and class on every channel. We also have plenty of different groups, which you'll see pretty much every day of the week. Different genre groups are meeting, like sci-fi on Thursdays. We have short story and fantasy group. We have mystery and crime group. If you want to join any of these are free and public, and you can also start your own. If you have any interest in running a group, let me or the moderators know. We'll set you up. Okay, let's start today with the overview of post-apocalyptic and dystopian, starting with a few favorites and highlights. If anybody wants to shout out some of their what they think are the best entries in these genres, we will look at causes of different types of apocalypses and phases. Not just post-apocalypse, but also pre and during. Dystopia styles. So what is a dystopia and what do different kinds look like? Zombies and other creatures like aliens and alien invaders and body snatchers and monsters that might end the world. Corporations, gangs, and clans, capped off by designing a gang exercise, which is should be a fun, silly thing where we just take like a few different columns of variables and use that to design your crazy Mad Max gang. We'll look at the themes of these genres and how they intersect, and then we will wrap up questions and open lab. Okay, so I'll start with a few of my highlights here. Maybe some shows that aren't as well known. Of course, you can also see maybe when I was mostly watching these shows, because most of these are a little bit older. There are still plenty of these coming out nowadays. And I think the most recent, just if I were to pick one, it's a little too soon after seeing it to say it's an all-time favorite. But just in terms of what I've seen in the past couple of years, really enjoyed Andor, which I would put in the dystopian kind of category. So all Star Wars is kind of dystopian, but Andor more than any other is much more in tune with these sort of themes of dystopian fiction, such as resisting these massive entities like governments and corporations, and what does that actually look like? How does resistance come together? So that's a cool recent example. But a lot of my highlights are going to be things that maybe not as many people have seen or know nowadays. Sarah Connor Chronicles and Jericho were on around the same time, which is, I would say, the sort of like early golden age TV, which was just after Lost and Battlestar Galactica. For a while, you could watch those two shows, plus Terminator, plus Jericho, all in the same week. Not to mention on the comedy side, The Office, My Name is Earl, Scrubs, and Parks and Rec, and Community. You could watch all of those shows in one single week. That was in the like 2009 and 10 kind of range. So clearly that was an amazing time to be growing up and getting into more mature shows in high school. So Sarah Connor Chronicles was one of the first ones that my family was really glued to the screen. And this is all canonical sort of Terminator material. None of this revisionist stuff that some of the later movies do, where they're like, well, it didn't really happen like that. Here's how it could have happened. This is all kind of like filling in the gaps in between the Terminator storylines, although it does have different actors and actresses as the leads. And the Arnold character does not feature in it. But anyway, really cool version, or really cool way to kind of expand the mythos of the Terminator stuff while turning it into almost like an urban fantasy series, because it all takes place within our same timeline. It doesn't spend that much time in the future kind of world. So ultimately, it becomes about this underground kind of world of resistance fighters from the future and robot people and half robot people. And at the end of the day, it's like it's basically like like one of those hidden underground vampire werewolf kind of worlds, like Twilight kind of stuff. It's like there's parallel societies of future people that exist within the fringes of the Terminator movies, but in fact they take center stage as like different resistance groups within the present in the show. Into the Badlands is it's campy and cheesy a bit, but it is a really neat world sort of centered on kung fu, like wuxia sort of tropes in a far post-apocalyptic world in which society has totally broken down, and I guess there's no guns, or guns are just like quite rare. Last Man on Earth was a comedy take on the post-apocalypse, which actually works at a very minimalist level. So I really like how much they're able to do with so little, just a couple characters. Especially the first episode, which for a lot of it, you're just with one guy. It does add more characters as the show goes on. Of course, it's not literally just one guy the whole time, but they really do a lot with a little. And it's cool to see the different games that they come up with to play and different dynamics that they explore in such a tiny group. And then Jericho was the other one that my family was really glued to back in the like 2008 to 10 range. This is a drama that is sort of about it is not sort of, it is literally absolutely about the aftermath of a series of nuclear attacks on the US. So it's sort of a civilian view of recovering after a nuclear exchange, where like big mushroom clouds spring up all over the country, and other main characters are trying to piece together what happened and figure out how to move on and survive. Kind of like Walking Dead minus the zombie stuff, right? We're dealing with just other groups of survivors and potentially invaders or other attacks, and we're trying to figure out what is going on. So it has that kind of Lost vibe to an extent of, we don't really have every piece of this, and we need to spend a long time putting together the mystery of what is in fact happening here. And then not only that, but surviving and dealing with these other different groups and enclaves of survivors in this sort of shattered America. So if that sounds cool to you, then check any of these out. And maybe anybody else wants to shout out a favorite post-apocalyptic or dystopian show that they have enjoyed. Okay, great. From the chat, we have a shout out Station 11. Thank you for that. That's an HBO show based on a book. I have a few slides looking at that one, but that is one of the few that has timelines that exist before and also after the apocalypse. So it's cool to see jumping back and forth to the normal sort of world and then the aftermath, and watching it really go through a very sort of COVID style, like biological pandemic apocalypse. It was very eerie in the couple of years after COVID. Anyone else? Why did Nacho Cinnamon and Sputnik go to a separate room? Or maybe they're dealing with some technical issue or membership issue, perhaps. Hopefully they'll hop back in with us soon. Okay. All right, different ends of the world. So apocalypses come in many different forms, of course. There's the more realistic and grounded side, which we might even have certain people making predictions about right now. They've been making predictions about this since basically the invention of weapons of mass destruction. warring nations or mad AI, devastating huge portions of civilization, leading to societal collapse. Maybe they even irreparably damage the atmosphere, the moon, the climate, or the Earth itself. In H.G. Wells' The Time Machine adaptation, I remember even that the apocalypse is sort of based on mining on the moon has damaged the moon, and now the moon is breaking up and sort of chunks of it are falling down and messing up the Earth. On the biological end, I think we all got a taste of what this was like with the global pandemic a couple years ago. But it can get much worse with everything from fungus infections that turn you into a monster or a zombie, zombies that bite people and turn them into the hordes of the walking, shambling dead, or just mundane diseases that make you get very sick and die. A movie like the what is the Soderbergh pandemic movie called? I think it was just called Outbreak, wasn't it? Soderbergh pandemic movie that was called Contagion. That's right. Very realistic now, probably a little too realistic for most people, making it really hard to get any of these going in terms of movies or shows, unless you have really strong source material. We have magical or religious, which is going to include rapture, Ragnarok, demonic invasions, or ancient prophecies coming to pass, the earth cracking open and the sky rolling back like a scroll, as it was said in certain hymns, and the either heaven and earth uniting, or the sinners sort of being smited and brought down to hell, and the righteous are ascended up to heaven, or something along those lines. Sometimes this is also visualized as demons sort of invading the world and killing or eating everybody, and something like Doom. Castlevania also features kind of like demonic, religious, apocalyptic kind of ideas, like armies of demons that will eat everybody. Astronomical will include asteroids, aliens, planets colliding, super weapons from ancient galaxies, the sunspots or radiation, any kind of natural but space-based phenomenon or something involving interdimensional or intergalactic entities. And then lastly, we have enigmatic. Is the world even destroyed at all? Or were we just separated from it? Or is this a simulation that we're in? Or ... question mark? We just don't know. The enigmatic apocalypse might have something kind of just inexplicable about it. We're not really sure what's going on. And a big part of the appeal of these shows and the mystery box kind of subgenre is figuring out what in fact happened. Where are we? The example that I've drawn from the source image here is from Dark City, where the characters at certain points theorized that the world was destroyed, but it turns out, I suppose, that this city was either built in space or taken from Earth and put into space. And now they are sort of, maybe the world is destroyed, but it's no longer really relevant. Now this is kind of all there is, like a city entirely on its own, just spinning in the void. So the early phase of this is going to be the first signs manifesting, but often the populace is slow to believe it or accept it. Or the comedic version of that idea is seen as something like Shaun of the Dead, where Shaun, the character, is so kind of accustomed to his routine, so set in his ways, and so fundamentally asleep that he doesn't really realize that when the zombies have already started invading. He's used to going through his routine of walking to the corner shop. He trips on the curb. He goes in the store and he buys a drink and he comes back out. He walks back home. He goes through the whole routine again once the zombies have already invaded. He doesn't even realize it. The signs are all around him. He slips on blood and he assumes that it's a spilled soda. Like the joke sort of becomes that the character completely ignores the signs. This is also a good place to set up the before version of your protagonist and consider how they will be tested in the second acts. For instance, if you're trying to build out a second act where your character will be forced to, I don't know, adopt a family or find a family, then in the first act, you're going to have to build out a situation for him in which he's the character that you think would be the least likely to be the one to form those family bonds. So be positioning them in such a spot that they have the hardest or most ironic, interesting uphill journey up ahead of them. It's also a great place to start to showcase the breakdown of society and that initial descent into chaos. As some people still value things like money, then priorities can kind of change, and you watch that happen over the course of the show. The movie War of the Worlds 2005, the Spielberg movie, I think is a really good transition from the pre into apocalypse kind of like phases, as we watch characters like still bargaining with money and cars, and they're still kind of like assuming the world's going to fix itself after this. And it does, but not in the way that they would assume. We also did mention Station 11, which has multiple different storylines that jump back and forth before and after this world-ending pandemic. Apocalypse is society, the phase where society has broken down. Survivors, scavengers, and predatory groups are going to fight over the scraps of whatever is left. This is a very violent and chaotic phase where there is no law enforcement and it is a peak of chaos. Pockets of civilization might persist and attempt to keep to themselves or aggress other regions in order to gain more resources. Most shows that take place in this phase boil down to sort of a group of survivors from disparate backgrounds must cooperate to survive and thrive in the new world. Characters' goals typically include finding shelter, setting up some kind of stable home, or establishing a safe community. Post-apocalypse is going to be when new societies spring up in the ashes of the old. Small pockets will begin to emerge after the worst of the fighting and radiation or whatever it is, monster attacks or demon attacks have died down, reestablishing new communities and connections, although they may still be dealing with whatever initially caused the problem. There could still be zombies wandering around, even if they are quite shambly and creaky and old at this point. The world civilization level might be rolled back, but human society does persist and thrive in some kind of violent competition, most likely. Eventually, power structures will condense, such as they are with whatever's left, and cities can start to rebuild or be repopulated, but it will be a long road before they get there. Okay, so let's define dystopia. What does this word mean? Anyone want to take a swing at that? Lou, go ahead.
Uh, can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you fine. Go ahead.
I'm kind of having trouble with it. I mean, I think of a utopia, which is also hard to define, but dystopia, I guess just the world turned on its head, but um systems break down, um chaos would be a hallmark of it. I I don't know, I just immediately think of like Mad Max or something. I can think of examples, but defining it seems to be eluding me.
Okay, I think you're along the right lines for sure. So we're talking about a setting. Uh, a dystopia is a place, right? This is referring to a fictional type of society. So there may be an element of chaos, but there is also certainly an element of order and civilization here, though not really the kind that we want. You're totally right that it's the opposite of a utopia, which we would look at as sort of the perfect society, whereas a dystopia is a deeply flawed fictional society that is in some way oppressive or miserable to live in. There's something about the way that it is designed that usually coalesces around a couple different ideas that are the basis of the cautionary tale that the writer's trying to tell. So you could have a dystopia that is based on religion, or a dystopia that is based on technology, or a dystopia that's based on social class or race or anything you want, usually writing that story within the subgenre to highlight some specific social issue and say, well, what if this thing were unchecked or out of control? What if racism were the basis of society? Or what if we sort of can use it as a thought experiment to explore these questions about theoretical alternate societies? So some dystopias will claim to actually be utopian, or they will on their surface seem to have it all figured out, but in fact they have some dark underside that is not immediately evident. Or some other ones may just make no pretense at all about the grim brutality of the systems that they uphold. These stories often center on characters resisting and rebelling against these systems and foundations of their society. Lou also says in the comments, I might define it as present day because I personally see the current world in a negative light. Sure. Yeah, these might be modern day, but we could have dystopian settings set in the past or the future as well, though. A lot of the time we imagine that these are kind of near, a lot of the quintessential examples of this are kind of like near future societies that sort of extrapolate, we would say, 5 minutes into the future, meaning just the next couple years down the line, based on whatever trend that you're trying to center your themes around. I won't be able to get into all of this, but I just wanted to shout out this great video from Hello Future Me, which is a YouTube channel that I really enjoy. How Democracy Really Dies is a great breakdown of everything that leads to the rise of a dystopian society, using different examples from not just Star Wars, but all of fiction. So I recommend checking that one out if you want to get more into a deeper dive into this idea. Let's look at some different types of dystopias. To begin with, a fascist totalitarian dystopia. This is marked by a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and forcible suppression of opposition. That's the dictionary definition. This is kind of a controversial word and phrase these days, as everyone's accusing everyone of being a fascist. But I think we can see that there is a clear, this has a meaning to it. It's not just your opinion. Fascist is not just anyone that you disagree with. This is all about centralized authority that you cannot question. So it requires complete obedience to the state in a totalitarian system. Surveillance and censorship and fear are the primary means of control. They might be theocratically rooted or run by zealots. We see examples in Handmaid's Tale in terms of sort of Judeo-Christian theocratic dystopia, and the Empire in Andor, which is run by Jedi or Force users that are zealots, or you could see them that way. But the rank and file are simply the normal clerks and soldiers who carry out the banal evil of their duties. The series The Man in the High Castle is a alternate history sci-fi show about a world in which the Axis powers won World War II. And now they occupy America, having divided it between Japanese and German control, with sort of a buffer zone, which is like Mad Max, kind of Mad Max Midwest, kind of in the middle. But the both of the sort of Axis American societies are totalitarian, basically like not like you might imagine Nazi Germany, but sort of melded with American ideals in a kind of twisted way. It sort of resembles, there's certain characters in The Boys who have an ideology that kind of mirrors that like modern old-fashioned Nazi sort of society building approach. So we also see examples of this in a lot of classic dystopian fiction, like 1984. Brave New World is a little bit different, but what's it called? Brazil, the Terry Gilliam movie, V for Vendetta, Children of Men, they all feature totalitarian fascist governments. We also have the false utopia, which I've touched upon. This is the kind of don't forget to take your joy pills, citizen kind of society. Brave New World is entirely like this, where everyone sort of is drugged into subservience and eternal happiness, or they are hypnotized into it through media and consumption and excess and materialism. And it could be like in the world of WALL-E, where they're strapped into chairs all day and they have access to all the food and soft drinks that they ever want, but really they're unhealthy and they live short, miserable little lives. They just don't really know it. So it's kind of purporting to be a perfect society, but if you look under the surface, or you take a step off the beaten path, or perhaps you're one of the unfortunate ones who aren't at the absolute top of it, then you will start to see those darker shades of it. Underneath all of that, obviously, is an oppressive system that is forcibly keeping all of that intact, and using those very means that they claim are enforcing peace and prosperity to, in fact, uphold their dictatorial control. So that might be, you have cops called peacemen or something like that, or peacekeepers, right? And really they're not making peace at all. They're going around beating up your citizens. Or you have the joy pills, which in fact they might make you think you're happy, but really they are just turning you into a hypnotized zombie. Sometimes your character might be an outsider that can see through the artifice of the society, kind of like in The Matrix, where your character might kind of wake up from all of this, or they could be somebody who's approaching from the outside. So it's, yes, either an outsider or some kind of insider that has an awakening and is able to understand that they live in a false utopia, and their goal might center on fixing it or exposing the truth. And they're, like in a movie like They Live, kind of showcasing how broken and dystopian the world really is. Some questions I might ask are, could any society like this be for the best? Is there a world where we might ever be able to root for this kind of society? What do you guys think?
I mean, I would say it's sort of like where the reality is so bad that, maybe it's not so bad to live in a fake illusory world.
Yeah, like Men in Black. Can you root for the Men in Black?
Uh, I don't. You're talking about like the
Yeah, the
like
movie
puppet
series.
aliens and stuff.
Yeah, that's the one. Have you not seen it?
Oh, I see what you mean because the aliens, it's a secret, and then they wipe out their
Yeah,
memory if you see an
it's kind
alien.
of, they
Okay.
don't really purport that they're in a utopia, but we are rooting for the people that are maintaining the illusion of
Yeah.
uh there are no
Normal
aliens. Yeah,
world.
they're maintaining the
Hmm.
illusion of normalcy when in fact there is a
Yeah.
whole society of aliens on Earth. So maybe we could root
Yeah.
for it in that kind of way where like there's even a whole
And
scene about this in the movie where they're like, don't people deserve to know the truth? But the explanation is kind of like,
Mhm.
well, a person on their own is smart, but people in general are dumb and panicky animals. And if they were to know about this, we don't really know what the public might reject it. They might go crazy. Um we don't think that it would cause chaos if the secret were out, right? So is there any kind of society like that maybe you could sort of root for this? Go ahead.
Definitely. I mean, I think there's even a case to be made for like a version of the Matrix where it is actually better to just be in a simulation.
Oh yeah, I mean you're writing a pilot kind of in this world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for your
Um,
character, are they struggling with this question of do I want to stay in the simulation or do I want to see the truth, even if the truth is worse?
I think I mean, it's just from what we've written so far. Um, it's more, at least in the pilot, it's more just that they're doubting that what they thought was odd, that it just makes them end up doubting themselves. Like, okay, no, I have dementia. I need to like take my medicine. I was wrong. And I need to just follow the program. Right. But I guess there could be a point where there could be some weird secrets. Like, do I really want to find out the answer to this? I guess.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, your character, if I remember, has missing, like he is living in this dementia kind of ass assistance village, and his
Mhm.
wife goes missing. So even if it is a utopia, he's really not able to enjoy it while she's gone. Is that right?
Um, yeah, you could say that. Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, it seems like your character is kind of like those characters that see through the veil and like see the truth for what it is.
Hmm.
But that's it doesn't seem like he's motivated by that. That just is like that it's something that happens along the way. So your character more has another
Hmm.
objective, and then as a result of that objective, starts to unravel the truth about the false utopia. That's a interesting variation. Let's look at corporate, which also might be sort of what the I think a lot of these nursing home or these dementia type villages are run by corporations in real life, aren't they? Like these are probably uh plagued by corruption or cover-ups and
Hmm.
things like this sometimes. Who knows?
They got to keep the stock price up.
Right, exactly. So this is where corporations replace government, profit and consumerism rule, but it's all going to be slanted in the company's favor. So this is going to be when corporations make the rules, they're going to favor themselves, and the house always wins. Sometimes the companies are going to act as kind of oligarchs that run the world, completely replacing governments like in Alien Earth. And sometimes they simply control more localized populations like towns or vaults or something like that, like in Fallout or Severance, and they simply run them as they see fit. But in either case, they sort of turn these individual smaller locations into like different dystopias. In Fallout, it's kind of interesting. There's all these vaults that different survivors have persisted in for hundreds of years as they've waited for the nuclear fallout to die down. And in each of them, some of them are actual enclaves or survivors, and some of them are actually working for corporations that decide to run the different vaults as different social experiments. So there's like one vault where they run it like it's a sitcom. There's one vault where they run it like it is. They have like different class divisions or structures. They have different racial divisions or structures. So it has that kind of cool vibe of every vault you find might be a completely different sort of corporate dystopia. All right. So, we're just covering a lot of ground today because we're hitting post-apocalypse and dystopian. So we're going to keep sort of hopping back and forth between them. Let's go into this new topic of monsters. Maybe our segue will be, aren't corporations monsters? Yes, they are. Speaking of monsters, how about in post-apocalypse, there's often some sort of monsters or creatures involved. Not always, but we've got your zombies or your aliens in A Quiet Place or your aliens in Mars Attack. The aliens in Mars Attacks or your aliens in what's it called? Invasion of the Body Snatchers or the giant blob in the blob or things like this, right? So your apocalypse can be triggered by, caused by, or exacerbated by uh, non-human creature or robots or other entities. What are some of your guys' favorites and why? And if you've got a zombie in mind, for instance, tell us which franchise or rule set is your zombie actually adhering to? Because there's so many different zombie variations. I'll start while you guys are thinking. Who says he's thinking? I'm sure Nacho can think of one as well. I'm going to start with The Mist. So The Mist came up a little while ago just in terms of our class on creature features. And it's one of those great examples of it's not one individual creature that is the basis of the whole story, but it is in fact like the source of creatures. It is a portal to a dimension where lots of really kind of over the top crazy monsters live. A lot of them have this Lovecraftian element of lots of different limbs, tentacles, or eyeballs, or things like that. And some of them kind of resemble animals that we know, but they have very different sort of abilities. Like um, they look kind of like bats or pterodactyls, but they have a deadly poisonous sting. And I also really like the way that the ecosystem interacts from the mist. That you'll see like, oh, there's giant bugs that seem dangerous, but they're not really that bad. What we really need to worry about are the big gargoyle kind of monsters that eat the bugs. So then we have to kind of figure out the food chain that these different sort of alien entities are abiding by and figure out how we can sometimes like turn them against each other. That's always kind of fun and cool. So I like when the source of the monsters is really the theme or is really like the hook of that story. And the mist to me, although the apocalypse does pretty much get prevented in that story by the military swoops in at the last second and does manage to close the portal somehow and kill the monsters, you could see that it was clearly the beginning of a truly Armageddon style situation at the end. Well, a monster apocalypse, if you will. Another great one along those same lines would be the script Monster Problems by Brian Duffield, which was eventually made as Love and Monsters. I just did not see the movie because the trailer did not look anything like the script that I enjoyed so much, but I also really enjoyed the variety of different monsters that all still do feel like they come from the same dimension or world in that one. Okay, how about you guys? Favorite zombies or apocalyptic monsters? Lou mentions the show From, which I've only seen a little bit of From. I think it has sort of like they're almost like the smile people, the smile demons. They look like humans, but they kind of are some kind of shapeshifter or uh, illusionist. They are not actually humans. Nacho mentions the sadness. People who lost all their inhibitions become raving psychos. That's a really gory Taiwanese movie. Another one would be Blindness, which is kind of like about a plague of blindness. I guess the zombies would kind of be just people that have gone blind and given into their most horrific inhibitions. I see another one in the chat as well, World War Z zombies and I Am Legend. Thank you for that. Yeah, those two are very really fast, kind of swarm-based zombies that all pile up on each other. And in World War Z, they almost behave like army ants in that they kind of create bridges and towers that they can all scramble up a big wall or they can connect between buildings. There's a type of army ant called Siafu, which basically work kind of like they do in that movie. They also kind of remind me of Left 4 Dead, which is a video game with very distinct kind of like special infected amongst all the just common infected too. Pretty similar to something like Resident Evil, which also is an apocalyptic slash kind of dystopian series that has a big variety of different sort of mutant monster things, many of which were once human, but not all of them. If you watch the Resident Evil series past the first movie, it goes from pre-apocalypse to current apocalypse to post. It might be the only franchise I can think of that really covers all three eras like pretty thoroughly. All right, let's look at some zombie stuff. So for a TV show, you need consistent rules to the extent where look at a show like Ash versus Evil Dead. And in the Evil Dead movies, it's one of my favorite franchises, but I'll be the first to tell you the rules for Deadites are not consistent and are not clear. I've seen them all a million times. How do you become a Deadite? Is it when a Deadite bites you? And if so, how long before you turn into one? Can you be injured in another way besides being bitten? Is it based on the blood, the saliva? What exactly, the teeth? What exactly is it that's causing it? Because sometimes someone gets possessed and then later they get unpossessed, but they were pretending, or are they becoming repossessed at that point? Sometimes you can become a Deadite based on just a cut from a knife. Like it's and the symptoms of it are also just really inconsistent. It comes with a certain like corroded black quality to the blood, I suppose. But besides that, and like a twitchiness to your limbs, I guess. But beyond that, it's really anyone's guess. Sometimes hallucinations, I suppose. So I love Evil Dead, but this is not one of the strengths of the franchise are not replicable rules, right? If you're doing a show, and like Ash versus Evil Dead, once we did the TV show, you can see that they had to get a lot more consistent with the rules. And we had to really work out, okay, when you get attacked by a Deadite, how long before you turn? Can you prevent it somehow? Do you have to cut off the limb? How long do you have to cut off the limb? If you don't cut off the limb, does it spread to other limbs? And then do you have to cut off multiple limbs in order to be saved from the infection? If it infects your brain, are you fully taken over right away? If not, how long does it take for that to happen? For a show, we are going to be living in this world for so much longer than a movie that we can't handwave things anymore. And often a big part of these worlds is your characters trying to figure out the rules. Because to do all the things that are usually your character's key objectives in post-apocalyptic fiction, they have to figure out the rules in order to be able to build a new and stable society. So we have to know how to clear out the infected if they're populating our area, right? How long before they starve to death? Where should we build our society? Somewhere where they're going to freeze? Somewhere where it's too hot for them and they all melt and decompose? Can they swim? Can they walk along the bottom of the water? Like, what can they actually do and what can they not do becomes incredibly important in a TV show in which we're expected to maintain a story engine that is going to last potentially for years and years and years. So it's worth it, even in your pilot, featuring characters that are trying to assess and diagnose these questions themselves of what are the rules? How can I apply those rules or replicate them in such a way that I can study and understand them better? So ask questions like, how is the infection spread? What is the incubation period? What is the symptom? How can you cure it? Can it affect animals or plants or other things? Even one more question that you might want to ask in differentiating and understanding the rules of your zombies or infected in your post-apocalyptic show? One more question.
Speed.
Okay, speed, great. Thank you for that. So, are they shamblers? Do they run? Do they lose speed over time? Do they get tired? Can they get do their bodies
Sorry, I just
degrade or bleed? Do they get weaker? Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I love that the graphic is Left 4 Dead. I really do.
This is one of my favorite games. And Left 4 Dead 2 included a couple extra infected, which you can see here. We have the spitter and the charger and the jockey. So yeah, video games are really good at differentiating between these because for gameplay reasons, you can see that we just want to have a very clear distinction between, or like not only distinction between what different types of enemies can do, but also we want to instantly be able to identify visually which enemy we're dealing with, and therefore what strategy or tactics would I have to use to deal with that enemy type. All right, so those are some good questions there. When it comes to other monsters, that's going to be demons, aliens, mutants. Again, just look for consistency of rules. A big part of the fun of the shows is watching the characters learn more about the enemy. Like, remember all the parts in The Quiet Place where they have these whiteboards that they've been writing down the rules they figured out, the things they haven't figured out yet. The central conflict of the movie can be sort of resolved in a way once we know how to kill these things. That's the central question: is how do we actually hurt them? What's their weakness? Can we communicate with them? Where did they come from? What are they made of? Those are all key questions to ask. Look out for obvious counters, though, to the key rules. If your reader can't figure out why the characters aren't just doing the easy thing that all of them thought of right away, then they're going to have trouble buying into the premise. And if your characters like temporarily use a solution, they use it just 1 or 2 times and then they don't use it again later, it's going to raise huge questions with your readers. The examples I'm going to bring up are, why don't we just live near the waterfall in a quiet place? And why don't we just always wear zombie guts on our bodies in The Walking Dead? Because in the first season, they pretty reliably prove that if you just cover yourself in zombie viscera, then zombies will think that you're a zombie and won't attack you. So why don't we just make like zombie spray, and I guess you could call it odorant, and odorize ourselves, and maybe even make a version that doesn't have to use actual zombie guts, maybe replicate the smell somehow. Like, why are we spending all our time not doing that? If it seems like there's such an obvious solution, your viewers are just going to get confused as to why your characters are so dumb as to not seeing it. Corporations, gangs, and clans. All right. These are all big in both of our subgenres. Corporations are going to be a little bit harder to come by in the immediate post-apocalypse, unless they survive somehow. And often they do in these stories. For the most part, though, let's start with corporations that are going to exist in dystopian settings. These are referred to private or state-run entities with enormous power, funding, technology, and very few compunctions about using any of those to achieve their goals, which are sometimes as simple as pure profit. A completely materialistic, short-sighted corporation might destroy the environment or create dictatorial laws that oppress the populace and choose the leaders they want. But in a predictable, sort of honest way. It's all in just pursuit of a profit, like Evil Corp from Mr. Robot, where there could, like, at the highest levels, maybe it was founded initially by somebody with some deeper evil intention, but now, by this point, it's just people trying to make money. A lot of corporations can do great evil just using that very simple sort of explanation. Or, on the other hand, they might be ideologically driven. Like the Umbrella Corporation or Lumen from Severance, they might have aspirations beyond simple money, such as, for instance, world domination or some sort of grander manipulation of world events, some kind of theocratic takeover of the government. They want to infiltrate every workplace in the world. They want to replace everybody with clones. They want to be the only corporation left. They want to steal all the money. They want to control the only supply of the cure to some disease. Corporations make for basically your default antagonists in dystopian stories because they are the modern world's way of conglomerating power in the hands of the amoral tech bros and real estate bros and various antagonistic forces that we just see already conglomerating power like this in our daily lives. So I think it's easy for us to imagine alternate societies or futuristic societies in which they have gained even more power and perhaps even now form the foundation of their own cultures or countries. Gangs or clans. You have to imagine that only really weird people would be in these gangs, because in order to survive the average person is not surviving the apocalypse, right? And so if you do, you're not average. You're weird. And this is where these kinds of character archetypes really shine. If you imagine who would actually be crazy enough to survive this thing, who would have the ability to survive, and who would be willing and able to fight hard enough to continue to survive past the initial few years. In these types of stories, you have so much room to get unhinged with this stuff. Mad Max has religious zealots with radiation poisoning who siphon people's blood to live longer, and they put spray paint in their mouths and scream about how they're going to Valhalla as they blow themselves up with spears from their cars. Like, we've got in Fallout a whole society of Elvis impersonators that all worship this guy that they view as the one true Lord impersonator. They just call him the king. They live in their own sort of militarized compound outside of the Las Vegas desert. Get weird with it. Okay, so I'll need a volunteer for this one. We're going to design a gang using these columns. So you're going to pick a column, then we'll pick the other variables for you, and it'll give you a fun combination of factors here. But first, we'll need to fill this out the rest of the way. So first, we'll need to type some stuff in the chat. This will require you guys to use the text chat on Discord, or if you're watching on one of our other sites, then we should still be able to see your text. But we'll need to just start with typing out a bunch of weird places for a gang to live. My first options are a swamp, an abandoned church, and a train station. Just shout out a bunch of stuff in the chat. I'm just going to start writing stuff. Truck stop. How about a desert motel? How about a sewer? How about a football fields stadium? The only one typing in the chat. Let's have the rest of you guys. Let us see some ideas. Is anyone listening? Is anyone there? Thank you. Okay, an abandoned warehouse. Let's keep going. Forest. All right, Grace. Keep going. Lots of stuff. Don't think too hard. Aquarium. How about military base? How about a sunken ship? Let's see a bunch more. Don't think too much. Museum. Got it. Thank you. Let's get two more. The zoo. That's a good one. Last one. Taj Mahal. Perfect. All right. Thanks for that. Now on this column here, let's fill this one out. Got a list of stuff. Right now, I'm just listing objects. Cactus, motorcycles, knives. They can be things that you think would show up in a post-apocalypse setting, but they don't really have to be. Whatever you want. I see rocks, ancient ruins. Keep going. Ancient ruins. Rocks. Let's get three more. Just three things. Three objects. Electric scooters, machetes. All right, let's get one more. Wrenches. Thank you. All right. So using these three columns, our volunteer is just going to pick one entry from one column, and then we'll give you the remainder. So you'll have to then think of who would that gang be? Why do they live where they live? And why do they do what they do? All right, I do see one last one, which is Declaration of Independence. That's really good. All right, do we have a volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
All right, Hildegard, let's start by having you pick an entry from a column of your choice.
Oh, an abandoned museum.
All right, abandoned museum. And we have I do see we have another volunteer. Since I'm in streamer mode, for some reason, I can only see the first letter of your name, which is A. But I will call on you.
Oh, my name is, Azra. I just have a baby, so she might scream, so I keep
Okay.
myself muted.
Oh, good. Thank you, Ezra. I'll call on you just after this one. All right, so we'll start with Hildegard. So you picked the abandoned museum. Let's pick they live in a museum and they are horrified of the Declaration of Independence. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, to be fair, they could be like a group of like extremely anti-Americans
Sure.
who like hated like the idea of America. So like the first thing they did was go to Washington, which I'm assuming is housed. I'm British, I don't know. And
Sure.
and it is, oh good. And captured the Declaration of Independence as a way to say, oh, this is our victory over America.
Okay, so they have it. They're keeping it captive. They're holding it hostage, basically.
They're holding it hostage, but they're horrified because they might lose it.
That's so funny. Okay, so they're keeping it like a monster. They're like, we don't want anyone else to find this ever again. We're going to be the guardians of it. Maybe, is there some reason I wonder why they can't destroy it?
No, they can't destroy it because it's like a serial killer destroying his victim's hair.
Oh, okay. So for sort of religious or ritualistic reasons,
Yeah.
maybe they feel like it sort of keeps it contained here. by
Yeah.
allowing it to exist in physical form. But if we destroyed it, maybe it would get out somehow. Kind of like how the Warrens keep the Annabelle doll like locked up. Like that's their explanation.
Yeah,
for why.
yeah.
Right. Okay. That's pretty funny. So what do you think their ideology is if they're just anti-America? Are they from a different country or are they Americans that have decided that this was the right route to
Oh,
go?
I think more than likely they are probably Americans.
Yeah, could be. We have a fair number of
They
people
are.
that would do this for sure.
Oh, I think they probably saw how things were going down. I think they saw how things were going down with the zombie apocalypse, and they had such little faith in the government that they thought the idea of America was a sham, that it was always going to lead here, like how like Empire always ends the same way. They kind of thought of it the same way.
I see. Okay, so almost like the prophesized end of the empire. They see it as like a
Yeah,
grand cycle, the ancient pulse
yeah,
of germ and birth, as it is sometimes called.
yeah.
But I like that. That's pretty fun. This feels like this could be a faction in the Fallout games, doesn't it?
That does actually.
Anything else you want to add?
Uh, no, no, no. I think that's fine. And, oh, wait, actually, because unironically, this kind of thing has happened in Britain.
Really?
People came over. Yeah, people came. One African and someone from America came over, and they claimed land in the middle of a forest, and they won't leave. Like the police came and told them to leave, and they won't leave. So,
Oh wow. Kind of like squat,
yeah.
squatters' rights, I suppose, is what they're trying for.
Oh
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah. That's all I have to add.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Let's hear from Azra.
Sorry, what was the question?
So you're volunteering for the activity, so you'll have to pick an entry from a column of your choice.
Okay. I pick an abandoned church.
Okay. Let's make your gang. They're in an abandoned church, and they don't believe in machetes.
Okay. So they violently opposed to having children. I'm just gonna be very
Okay.
specific. And I guess I choose a list, like a list of stuff. So
Oh no, so I've chosen the other
oh,
entries for you. I picked
oh,
from I picked what was it? Uh did I don't they don't believe in, and over here I picked machetes. There it is. Okay. So yeah, whatever comes to mind.
okay. So sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm getting distracted with my daughter. So you were saying that I just create this design a gang from that and just talk
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily for a story,
Okay.
just think of a post-apocalyptic gang that lives in a church
Yeah.
and does not believe in whatever that means, however you interpret that phrase, does not believe in machetes.
Okay. So this gang, I would say they're called the Believers, and they have a real issue with people procreating. And so and whenever they see children, they just want to lock them up and just kind of just use them to they want to wait, and they let the children raise themselves, so they don't want the children to be with the adults. So these children have to figure it out on their own. And so this gang, they live in a church, and an abandoned church, and whenever they come across people with families or um children in general, they either kidnap the children, or they kidnap the families and they split the children up from the family. If there's like a certain amount of adults in the house, like the parents, they'll force the parents into their cult or into their gang, and the children would have to be locked up or imprisoned and separated from the rest of the population. So Yeah.
What about the machetes? Hang on, wait, the core.
Oh, and they don't.
What does it mean to not believe in
Oh, yeah.
machetes?
To not believe in machetes is to
Does that mean they think they don't exist, or does that mean that they believe that nobody should use them and they prefer it some sort of, are they against the idea of blades? You know what I mean? I wonder what it could mean.
um yeah, so for machetes, they don't believe in using machetes of because the blade is really big. They kind of believe in more into like they're more into smaller weapons, maybe like needles or uh like even like sewing stuff, like things that are like very small in nature of a weapon. They like to use those as a way of weaponry, so they're very precise in how they harm people. And yeah.
Okay, could work. Maybe I'm thinking if we're in a church, is there some religious reason for that? Perhaps something about shedding blood, like you don't want to shed too much blood, or like I wonder if there's some
They want to preserve the body because if someone were to die, they'd want to prepare them for the afterlife. And so they don't want the body to be so abused. Or yeah, because they want the body intact so that they can give it as an offering. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah. So there's other gangs, and they're using guns and machetes and everything, explosives and everything else. But this gang, they're like, no, we must
Yeah.
preserve the bodies of our victims. They must be
Yeah.
whole and pure before they can join our. I'm not sure what they're doing with them, but whatever it is that whatever gross ritual they're doing with them.
Yeah, I think I would imagine they would just use the body, like they would let the body decay a bit at like as an offering to like they'll put it in a room of some sort. Like they're doing almost a ritual of some kind, and they let the body stay in there and maybe even steam the body, who knows?
Oh, yeah, it kind of reminds me of the sky burial, which is a practice in some cultures where they, instead of burying them, will just leave the corpses to be eaten by vultures and birds.
Oh,
So all kinds of interesting religious traditions that could come up in the apocalyptic world, right? Where there's no rules anymore.
Mhm.
We can do as, you don't have to follow any laws anymore. We might have some really dark cults and things rising up in control. Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you.
All right. Let's look at a couple themes, and then we will open to questions on everything we talked about today. And then if you have a log line for your pilot that you want to workshop, we'll have time for that too. Okay, so a couple common themes for this genre. For these, it's a pretty broad array, post-apocalyptic and dystopian. And within those, there's many different tones and shades like we've just gone over. And, even within apocalyptic, we've looked at pre-apocalypse and post-apocalypse kind of eras. So there's plenty of nuance. But I think in kind of aggregate, we are looking at the major themes being carrying the fire, resistance, we have to fix the world and rebuild it, or we have to just get through one more day. These are kind of like the conclusions that our characters come to by the end. Carrying the fire. This term comes from Cormac McCarthy's The Road, and this is sort of the controlling central metaphor of the book. But this refers to the idea of holding on to purity and goodness and your moral compass in a world where that the moral compass has been broken or compromised, or others have succumbed to the brutality and inhumanity of the new world paradigm, right? So everyone else is turning evil, turning into cannibalistic gangs of murderers and thieves and burglars and everything else, maybe even zombies and monsters themselves. And we have to be the ones to sort of like take on the responsibility of maintaining hope as this fragile candle flame in the wind that must be, carefully guarded and protected. And that is sort of the ultimate ideal of living in a world like this, is that every day by day, you will simply keep that small flame alive and pass it, once you're ready, to your children, who will then keep it alive and they will pass it to their children. And that persists from, usually carrying the fire comes up as a theme in the post-apocalypse. Once we're through the chaos and insanity of those early stages, because this is kind of tying back to the theme of the question of what do we do next? Like, how do we, or do we at all rebuild the world? What's after this? What's the next step after this apocalyptic scenario has concluded? Resistance comes up mostly in dystopia. This theme and this idea, or this topic, I guess we could say, emerges in stories about the struggle against oppressive regimes. So characters are forced to decide if the many dangers of standing up to regimes are worth the sacrifices that they will make, even if those sacrifices only chip away, barely make a difference against these overwhelmingly powerful systems. We mentioned The Man in the High Castle, which is also a dystopian resistance-based show. And we ask the questions like, is it worth it? What are we fighting for? And what is the point if we'll never win, or if we'll only move the front line a few inches forward? We'll never see the rewards. We will, burn our future for the sunrise we will never see, as Luthen puts it. So we're sort of ending up in one of two camps with these. And this is determined in large part by how hopeful the general worldview of the storyline is. And you can always create a story where your characters are attempting to do one thing, but then they end up doing the other. So we'll start with, we have to fix the world and rebuild. That can look like a lot of different things. That might be your characters developing a cure for a disease, or a zombie infection, and or a vaccine for it, that now we're able to make it so that nobody can ever get infected again. But then, of course, we run into the additional logistical questions of how do we distribute and control that vaccine. Not a lot of series really approach that question, but you get the idea that that all just seems like logistics once the vaccine is finished being developed. We also, in the same category, might see stories about revolutionary leaders who sometimes they have special powers or something that sets them apart from the rest of the population. They might be a chosen one of some kind. They may have magic. They might be like the kid from Sweet Tooth with the horns. They might be like Ellie from The Last of Us, where they have special blood or some kind of quality to them that does make them essentially the most important person in the world. Or they could be genetically engineered, like Alice from Resident Evil, or any of these other things that tell us that this person is special and different. And they're going to play a key role in finding the cure, fixing the atmosphere, toppling the bad guys, or just putting the good guys in charge. Young adult dystopian, for a while, was a very dominant genre in publishing and in the world of movies and TV as well, and really centered on this idea of outsiders or insiders from within the system who wake up to that system and then become the poster boy for change within that system. And then last, we have to get through one more day. This is the much more cynical and jaded approach to these stories, where if it's not going to be about your characters trying to fix the world or restore it to how things were before, or create some new workable, functional, stable society, well, then what's left except for just surviving another day? It might be surviving another day in terms of like we actually accomplished our goal, but our goal in the first place was something that would just allow us to continue to live, right? We might have found a new home, but it's not like we're going to use that home to cure the zombie virus. We just have a place that's safe for now. A lot of zombie movies do end kind of like this. But usually there's some glimpse ahead forward towards, well, what's next? What in the end of a movie, it will often say, well, it's not, maybe it won't be forever though. Like 28 Days Later, which ends with the characters, they just sort of live through one more day, but then at the end it sort of says, okay, hope is possible. We see a plane overhead. We're going to start to rebuild, and we're on the path towards getting back to normal. War of the Worlds is a similar thing where, well, the aliens are dead, and now is the time for us to start putting the pieces back together. But in any case, more often than not, these stories are about short-term survival, and usually more about characters holding onto their family or resources for dear life, or maybe looking for something more to live for.
Sorry, can I just ask real quick, what's that image from?
I don't know. I think I just got this one on an image search. Good. I usually know the sources though, so it's fair to ask. But yeah, this one I'm not sure. Do you think you recognize it?
I think I do. The indie game, the Raft, the indie game.
Maybe.
It feels very Raft.
Yeah, it looks like a video game to me. It looks like a game engine.
Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to ask.
Oh, good. Thank you for that. Anybody want to ask a question or comment on the themes of post-apocalyptic and dystopian fiction?
what do you think about like the how do I say this? Like, okay, so if you have 1984 and then you have like a Jesus, you have 1984 and then you have Man in the High Castle. Man in the High Castle is inherently optimistic, and 1984 is inherently pessimistic. Where do you think someone should fall on the line between those two, given like our current circumstances? Like, should we always be writing stories about like people resisting, even though in reality a lot of people wouldn't resist?
Sure, it's a good question. And I don't think there's any one should always, like there's no always answer for anything. There's not one way to write anything, whether you're writing in Western Hollywood style of structure or whether you're writing in, no matter what tradition you're writing in, there's always going to be options and room for everything. So that as a disclaimer, I will say that a lot of the time, dystopian fiction is used as a form of satire or in order to highlight systemic change that the writer wants to really see in the real world. So these stories, a lot of the time, are in conversation with the real world. So I think you have to ask, to what extent do I, the author, want to be in that conversation with reality? Or to what extent do I want to separate this from reality and say, I'm going to create a sort of separate ecosystem that is not necessarily linked to any one-to-one parallel to a real political idea, right? And it can be hard to do that sometimes because no matter what you write, if you're like, even if you write, I'm going to do a thing about a bunch of elves who worship a popsicle or whatever, right? There's going to be someone that's like, well, but the popsicle obviously represents small government, right? And you're going to be like, no, the popsicle is not small government. But like, no matter how you do it, someone's going to be able to read into that. And there's something sort of inherently political about dystopian and utopian fiction. There is. So I think you picked up on that for sure. It's not your responsibility to do anything with that. Like, you don't have to change the world with your story. You can just write something awesome. I don't know that Mad Max is really about any one systemic issue, although it touches on scarcity and what's it called? Inequality and things like this, climate crisis, gas shortages. But is it really like at its core deeply about that? Or is that kind of just a jumping off point to an awesome story about people chasing each other across the desert in awesome cars? Hard to say. I'm not totally sure. And we'd have to, of course, have the writer in here to know what the intention was, right? But I think there's room for both. There's room for stories that are just about awesome spacemen that are doing awesome spacemen things. But the more politicized those stories get, the harder it will be to remove them from parallel contexts, such that an average viewer would look at it and be like, well, okay, but that strikes a chord for me. So I think if you're writing something that starts to feel closer to real life, then viewers will probably be expecting you to engage in that political conversation more. Whereas if you deliberately separate it from real life, you make big, wild choices that like create situations that are deliberately, separated in some way, that might be a way to divorce it from that conversation. But even if you do, people will just think that that is a cop-out, or somebody will accuse you of that being a choice on its own, like the movie Civil War, which was by Alex Garland, who's an English writer-director, that even after creating a situation in which he deliberately creates the powers in that movie such that, well, no alliances would ever really work that way, or it doesn't seem like any alliance would work that way. The intention was to divorce it from reality, but of course then people just look at that and go, oh no, that was a statement. I see what you were trying to say. And they'll just read in whatever they want to it. So short answer for short recap, TLDR of the long question is, you can pick the approach that suits your intentions the best. There is room for intense political satire, like a show like Andor is extremely political. And then there's also room for stories about popsicles and cupcakes and whatever, like Adventure Time kind of stuff, like that doesn't have to actually be connected to politics. But there's a lot of there's a long tradition of using this genre for explicitly that. So I would say about 60-70% of these stories will be about real politics to a degree. That was the longest answer for me ever, to just say pretty much, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. That could be like a whole essay. I'm only like able to scratch the surface right now, I suppose. But yeah, I feel like you should probably have something political to say in writing a dystopian type of show. Post-apocalypse, I think less so. And also you can, or even all of them, you could do a show where every character is on the side of the oppressors, but then the theme of that would sort of manifest differently, right? Like the public would probably not receive a show well that was on the side of the oppressors from the point of view of the oppressors, and by the end, the oppressors are proved to be correct and moral and right, and they're doing the right thing, and it's a good thing we have them. That just probably wouldn't be received well.
I would argue that Game of Thrones is exactly that.
But Game of Thrones is about an apocalypse that is oncoming and that these different factions are unable to stop because they're not able to work together. They're so short-sighted and so obsessed with their power struggle that they're not able to sort of form a bastion against this greater threat. I don't think Game of Thrones is arguing for the system that the characters live in. I think it's saying the system is brutal and unfair.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Any other thoughts there? Okay, it was a good topic and question. I was glad to go into it if you want to.
Wait, I
go
do have a question.
Sure.
About the difference between post-apocalyptic and dystopian.
Okay. The question is, what is the difference?
What would you consider to be the difference between post-apocalyptic and dystopian?
Sure. So, post-apocalyptic refers to setting. It is referring to and sort of the genre that usually is linked to that setting, which is often going to be survival stories that are about the breakdown of civilization and characters that are attempting to find some sort of new civilization. Whereas dystopia is more about oppressive civilizations and systems that already exist. It's not really about that chaos of things breaking down. It's more about imagine this other world or this other society in which things are already established in a very oppressive way.
Okay.
All right, thanks for the question. Any other questions on the topic from today? Okay, we'll go to Open Lab then. Anyone want to share a logline or anything else like pilot idea for feedback?
Uh, well, to be fair, I just joined this because I thought it'd be interesting. But I was like barking on a logline.
Okay.
Like it's like half of a logline because I can't quite figure out the wording for the rest of it. It's a conflicted man gets invited to the home of a dictator. And I wanted to like push it into he has to decide between like killing the dictator and like not killing the dictator.
Wait, I'm sorry, this is a TV show idea?
No, because I can't write TV shows, but it's a film idea.
Okay, let's stick with TV right now because this is our pilot boot camp, but our feature boot camp is on
Oh,
Monday,
okay.
so in just day after
Oh,
tomorrow.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, from 11 to 1. And glad to work on that then.
Oh, fair enough.
If you have a pilot
I
idea,
have one.
Oh, go ahead.
So my TV show, it's called Brothers, and it's a apocalyptic drama. And the logline is two teenage boys unknowingly fathered by the same man meet under explosive circumstances, just as a zombie-like outbreak turns their city into chaos. Torn between betrayal and survival, they must learn to trust each other or die trying. So this was the first version of the logline. I was reworking it, and in my pitch deck, I put in my second version on my pitch deck, I put sorry, just opening it up here. As a zombie outbreak ravages the city, two half-brothers raised apart must overcome betrayal and distrust to survive and protect their family.
Okay. Thank you for that. Are you able to paste that into the chat just so we can read that as well?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Always easier to review if we can read it as well as hear it. Okay, thank you for that. And so is your question, which of these should you go with, or like how to pick the best version between these?
Yeah, because I am a bit torn about which one. Thank you. I'll post a second version. Sorry, just copy in.
Sounds good.
Mm. Sorry, you might hear my daughter grunting in the back. She's
I
just,
hear it. You're all
I
good.
guess. Okay, perfect.
All right. So we've got your two versions here. Let's start with, okay, so two teenage boys unknowingly fathered by the same man meet under explosive circumstances, just as a zombie-like outbreak turns the city into chaos. So the zombie-like outbreak was not even the explosive circumstances. You're saying there was other explosive circumstances besides that. Torn between,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Torn between betrayal and survival. Who betrayed who? They must learn to trust each other or die trying. Okay. Yeah, just a lot of questions from this one. I'm not sure who was betrayed, except maybe, I guess you're saying they were lied to about their parentage? Is that the betrayal?
Yeah, so they discover their brothers, two teenage boys discover that they're brothers and that their dad had a secret family. So their dad was hiding each other, like each, my goodness, how can I not speak? They're hiding yeah, so they're the same age. The dad fathered these two kids at the same time, and he just kind of basically separated these boys from knowing each other. But the mother of his children, they know about them being born and all that, but they just kind of just did not bring it up to the boys. They just wanted to raise them apart. So
Okay.
the discovery was just the explosive part. Yeah.
Oh, that is the explosive part, is just learning the scandalous truth of the separate families.
Yeah.
Got it, okay. And then they have to learn to trust each other or die trying. So, but they have no relationship with each other, right?
Yeah, they don't.
Right.
So I guess and plus they have a lot of envy because it the story builds enough where one brother gets to see how the father is with the other and sees the life that he didn't have because the dad is absent from his life. So it kind of boils down to him starting to become envious of his brother, his half brother. And so there is some kind of jealousy. And yeah.
Okay. So I'm just trying to picture what is actually happening in the show. So are you saying these two brothers from separate families are kind of stuck together in the same place?
Yeah, they're stuck trying to survive with like they're trying to survive the apocalypse together because when they discovered um that they're brothers, that's not when the apocalypse breaks out. It's when they, after a few interactions, they have a meetup again under this tree and they essentially I guess they start fighting and they actually like really start fighting like brothers usually do. And then that's when they hear some stuff, some commotions, and they realize that there's something wrong. Like they're like the city is going to shit. And yeah.
Okay. And so is this a story about your characters moving from place to place, or are they staying in one place the whole time?
They will be staying in one place the whole time, which is their high school,
In the high school? Whoa,
which is the
okay.
nearest.
That's got to be in the log line. That seems like a huge
Oh
part.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
so that's like if that's the central location for the show, that's a huge selling point of the show and like a part of the fun and games and like that's just essential. So absolutely include that. And so is it kind of like wait, do they go to the same school? Or are you saying they just they
No.
go to school once?
So they go to neighboring,
craziness
they go to
begins?
neighboring schools.
Okay.
Yeah, they go to neighboring schools. Yeah. So they always meet up at this tree, which is like a midpoint of where these two schools are. One school's on one side, the other school's on the other.
Okay, got it. So your premise is there's two teenage brothers that just recently found out about each other's existence, and they're just kind of getting to know each other for now the first time, trying to make up for that lost time. It seems like their relationship is a little strained, though, the way you've described it. But then when the apocalypse hits,
Yeah.
they sort of have no one else to rely on, but they have to sort of become that family that they should be. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
So the high school is a nice element to it. The fact being that you only have two characters does raise some questions as just to how the engine of the show is working exactly. I would wonder, for instance, like in the pilot, and if there were a pilot logline, this would be a little clearer. I think this is just the series logline that you've shared here. But a pilot logline might mention something like, if there's other characters involved, are they joining a gang or starting a gang, or like who are the other people in the cast in the world of this? Or other kids at the school, perhaps? Go ahead.
Yeah, so other kids at the school who are trying to survive. Also at the school, on this particular day, he gets into a fight with some boys at school, which is probably one of the reasons why he gets into a confrontation with his brother at this tree. But anyways, his mother gets called, so she actually arrives at the school, so she'll be there too. And yeah, so it's just his mom and some kids, and then obviously his brother goes back to his school, and his father is called because he skipped class and they didn't know where he was, and he's been doing that quite often. So his dad arrives at that school to discipline him, and his mother. So we see that these characters kind of come together, but when the zombie apocalypse breaks out on that particular day, and because their families are apart, they're in these different locations. I guess they're conscious about, like, should we go and help them? Should we go and try to save them? Because, it's an apocalypse. They're gonna, if that's his son at this other school, he has an obligation. Sorry, I'm jumping. Now I'm thinking through the father's eyes. But yeah, because the father is there. Yeah, sorry. I don't usually talk about my stories. This is my first time, but
It's fine. No, you're doing great. So I guess I am trying to just think of like the simplest and easiest way to express this, which might be, and like you mentioning that their family is actually there. That feels like that should be in the logline to me too. Especially if, well, most of the time the POV characters are going to be whoever's running things, right? You would imagine if there's adults and the kids there, then the adults would be in charge, usually by default. Is that the case, or is that not the case?
Yeah, that's the case in this. Yeah,
It is. So the kids,
I would say so.
There's kids at the school, but they just default to the adults being in charge.
Yeah. But then there are those kids that are just very alpha in nature. And if things do go down, maybe an adult gets hurt, then like the tables have turned where they take control over the situation.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I could see that playing out. I guess because you could frame this if you were to, like, I'm just thinking of not knowing what happens in the story. I'm just spitballing. I'm just guessing here. But you could frame it something like two brothers must rise to become the leaders of the clan of teenagers that occupy a school during a zombie outbreak, right? And it's sort of, if you position the show as like them rising to become the ones who will then lead this and like become the kings of the school, or the fresh princes of this high school, so to speak. Or it could also be something like, this family. This is a show about a family that's occupying the school, and the way that it's sort of the way that they are tested, and that their bond is tested from all angles, and that they must sort of come together to survive. Something more centered on the family as the like root of the ensemble there.
Yeah.
So can I ask, have you written the script yet, or is this just an idea?
I've written some parts, like some scenes here and there. I haven't finished it though. I haven't written the pilot.
Oh, you have. Okay, all good. So yeah, I don't have to jump into giving you too many story notes, but I would just say there's a lot of shows like this and a lot of movies like this that are just like group of survivors in a place during a zombie apocalypse, outbreak, monster attack, alien invasion, whatever else it is. So just try to emphasize in your logline what makes yours stand out or set apart a little bit if you can. I mean, the relationship is okay, but the relationship is very distant by design because they don't really have a relationship with each other. So you're sort of saying they will form that by the end of the show, but we have so many other family members there that it sounds more like a show about a family than a show about two brothers to me, especially because the dad being in there in the middle of all of that, and he was like a traitor who had these two families. There's like a lot of family drama, it seems like, that would still be ongoing, perhaps, or be explored in a new way. Unless it's something like maybe I could also see a version that's like two brothers break off from their family and claim their own wing of the school, and they're going to do things their own way over here. And maybe that's the sort of like hook, is that kids versus adults kind of thing, or something like that. These are just examples. You don't have to go any of those directions. Maybe that's dumb, but the point is, I think just if you can get a little more specific, then characters are in location during apocalypse, then it'll ring so much clearer, and it'll just feel like a clearer poster, like a clearer trailer. If we're imagining like how would you sell that, what would that look like, what is just the one image of that look like. So give some thought as to the hook and how to express that, and also definitely put the high school seems like a core part of your show. Put that into the log line. And if you can suggest also the fact that the whole family is there, I would also do that. Like a family must pull together. These two brothers must lead their family, or they must come to support their family through this scenario where they are now all of them together stuck in this horrific scenario in place. So I'm sure you'll find it somewhere within all those different phrasings.
Sorry.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. This is really helpful. Thank you.
Of course.
So I just wanted to say, with regards to the idea of like a family or a estranged family rather, during a zombie apocalypse, Train to Busan does that very, very well.
Yep.
It does it very, very well. I think that's like a very good example to go off.
Absolutely. And the sequel is very good too.
There's a sequel?
Yes, Peninsula. Check it out.
Oh shit.
It's not
Okay, yeah, I will.
quite as good, but it's like almost as good.
Okay, yeah.
Have to check that out. I did not know that either.
Yeah, very good. And I would skip there's a cartoon movie in the series too, which is pretty much skippable. I forget the name of it, but yeah, Peninsula, worth watching.
That part of me is disappointed.
Well, now you have an exciting thing to check out, so I hope you enjoy.
I will.
Let's open it back up to Open Lab for anyone that wants to share a logline or a premise for a show. Something else. We have a viewer on YouTube. The Yes Indeedy. Welcome, Yes Indeedy. Says loose rules seem to work the best. More rules, more problems. This was quite a while ago when he shared that comment. Sorry, Yes Indeedy, but glad to have you if you're still there. It sometimes does take a while to see the comments on the other streaming sites as opposed to Discord. I will recommend, if you're watching on something else besides Discord, Discord is our home base, and it's where you will get to do the most interaction with the Script Camp community. So come by our Discord and join us on Script Camp or WordCamp or Game Camp or the many other servers under the Skill Camp umbrella. Last call, anyone else?
I have a possible premise, not really a logline,
That's fine.
but a premise that I'm been kind of toying with is during the biblical apocalypse, a petty thief and his ex-wife must find the seal before the world ends further, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Before the world
All
ends further? What does it mean to end?
yeah. Well, it doesn't need to, but it's gonna get worse if they don't. Um, all while driving one of the best muscle cars ever invented, the 1955 Buick Skylark Grand Sport, which is a beautifully underused car. It's great.
Are they paying you to promote it?
I no, I feel like they need to, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
You deserve it, for sure. Okay,
It's
so we have
great.
a petty thief and his ex-wife who did not get into heaven when the rapture happens. Which style of
Yep.
rapture are you going with? Like the one where we think we talked a little bit about it before, but about how
Yeah.
the newfangled rapture idea is the righteous rise up into heaven and the sinners stay on earth to suffer in their sin, basically. Whereas the biblical version is more like it's kind of like I think, and this I was not raised religious, but my understanding of it is more just like the cloud, as it says in the hymns, the trump shall resound, and the clouds shall roll back as a scroll, and heaven and earth sort of merge. And I'm not sure what happens to the sinners in the biblical version. Do they get left alone on earth, or do they get sent to hell?
So there's different stages, right, in Revelation, and so I'm basically following the book of Revelation, so it would be biblical in that way. So it would be the biblical version of events. And there are 7 scrolls, and 4 of them have been open, and so the show would be basically 5, 6, and 7. And so it's finding the rest of them before the Antichrist can, essentially, is the idea.
Oh, okay, wait. So take me back just 1 second. So is it just the sinners on the earth? Who's on the earth? Who's populating the earth right now?
So it is sinners and those who um I'm kind of using Left Behind rules too. So Left Behind rules is, yeah, there are sinners, but there are also people who chose because we're in tribulation. And so there's basically, okay, this is your last chance to kind of, get in. So there's still time, but if you don't make it this time, guess what?
Oh, okay, wait.
Um,
So
yeah.
so you're saying that the sinners are the only ones left on earth, the righteous have left, but the sinners still have the opportunity, or some of them at least have the opportunity to redeem themselves and still get into heaven?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm going for.
Okay, got it. And we have to steal 3 different scrolls. And where are they? Are they around the world? Are they around America? What do
Yeah.
we have to do to get them?
They are scattered throughout different places. I'm picturing one is, somewhere in Europe. One is somewhere in the Middle East, and one is somewhere in the United States somewhere.
Okay. Season 1, season 2, and season 3, I can see
Exactly.
your plan here. Got it. All
Yep.
right. And I mean, my thought is you'd probably want to put them in civilization, because if they're in the wilderness, then it doesn't matter that the apocalypse is happening anymore, right? Like it wouldn't actually become relevant.
Yeah.
Like this could take place at
Right.
any point in time. If they're out if we're doing Tomb Raider, then it's not gonna.
Right.
It feels like a waste of the apocalyptic idea to a degree. So
Right.
yeah, so maybe you want to put them in like urban areas.
Right. Yeah, like Phoenix or something.
Sure.
Or
like
wherever, wherever.
in
It doesn't matter.
In Percy Jackson, they put the entrance to the underworld of the Hollywood sign, which I thought was a good touch.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
That's a little
you've got the
tongue-in-cheek.
basics down. I mean, to develop this further, you need a sense of your antagonists. So first of all, it sounds like you're saying the Antichrist is on Earth with us, racing us for the scrolls, which is a really simple pulp sort of time-honored pulp tradition of there's Nazis or bad guys or demons or whatever looking for the same stuff that we're looking for the doodads that we have to collect. So that works really well. But then who has the doodads and what is stopping us from getting them? That would be what to develop next, I think. So
Right.
especially if we aren't even going to find it until like episode 8, it kind of raises the question, well, what do we do in episode 1 then? Because if we can't actually get
Right.
the thing for a while, is it all about chasing down leads? Like getting the clue to the next clue to the next clue, like national treasure rules?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's kind of following that, you know, time-honored detective type of rule.
It works pretty well. I
We
mean, I'd suggest as well that it might work on a smaller scale. Like if you
Sure.
even consider this could just be a road trip across America. This doesn't even have to be a globe-trotting adventure if you didn't want it to. That might be part of the fun that you wanted to have. But
Sure.
especially the fact that it's a comedy gives you a little bit of a license to say like, oh yeah, no, I got all the other scrolls. There's just a couple in America that I have left to get, right? Like there's one outside Vegas. I think there's one somewhere near Tennessee, and there's one, like you could be kind of vague with some, more specific with the others. It might work in just one country as well. I think I heard a comment from was it from Hildegard? Go ahead.
Oh, no, because I was gonna say that like it has to be Lucifer has the final thing, but like when you were saying like it could be in Vegas, have you ever seen it's a Johnny Depp film? Oh, yes, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Right.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, where they're like stumbling through Vegas. Like if there was like a couple of episodes in Vegas where like half of the people that are with you that just like that you are kind of relying on are just excited that they're in Vegas. And there's like a handful of guys who are like, yeah, we have to get this thing, but at the same time, yeah, but we're in Vegas.
Right, right. Gotta have a little here there. When are you gonna get another chance,
Why you that big like hell is right behind us.
Exactly. Yeah. Might as well indulge a bit because probably things pretty much have been progressing uninterrupted over in Sin City, I'm guessing, since the apocalypse began. Original Sin City. Well said, Dakota. Okay, so you've got a pretty good idea. I mean, the basics are there. I mean, I can give you areas to suggest expanding into next, which would be fleshing out the challenges and the actual string of clues, figuring out, okay, where actually is the first scroll? And if it is there, then what challenges can I put in the way to get our characters to find the next clue and the next clue? And I need to make finding the clues as satisfying as it would be and cool as it would be as finding the actual scroll. So make sure that the clues themselves are actually exciting and propulsive and interesting. And it's not all just feeling like a checklist of like a scavenger hunt where we just got the next thing, check it off the list, got the next thing. It should feel
Right.
like every clue can come with like your clues can be in the form of a character, or you could get a clue in the form of a talking item, or you get a clue in the form of a prophecy or a riddle, or like just think of all the different forms that your clues can take and try because in building out a treasure hunting storyline, you build it like a mystery where it seems like the clues are
Mhm.
leading you to one location, but then it turns out, wait a minute, it's not there, it's actually over there. Like it seems like to some extent you're in the pulp treasure hunting world of stuff like the Monk.
Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, I love that stuff, just so you know. And so I would definitely watch this. But yeah, get more specific about your locale and figure out, do I really want to do globetrotting? Or would it all work in one smaller scope? It's okay if you want to do globetrotting, but then it will require you to then brainstorm more thinking, well, where are each of these actual scrolls? Or is it like some sort of globetrotting bad guy or organization or something that operates and owns the different sites where the scrolls are being held? Or just flesh out the antagonists and the opposing force, basically, not just from the devil or the antichrist, but also from whoever has the scrolls. And then you'd have to put that work into thinking of the chain of clues into getting us from one spot to the next. So that's what I would expand into next.
Okay.
Can I also add with regard to the globetrotting thing? With regards to I I would probably suggest that you kind of stay in America because America is a very big place, but Europe is also a very, very big place. It's very, very big. Like every 100 miles, someone is speaking a different language, and they have different history, and they have different architecture, and like different cities and their history. It's very, very complicated. So when you say do you mean like are you thinking like France or like Germany, or what were you thinking?
I was thinking like the Netherlands.
The Netherlands. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm all about the Dutch.
You are lately.
I'm all-
Horses and the Dutch.
Yep, horses and the Dutch. That sounds
Are we
like
gonna
a
get? Are we
interesting
gonna get your?
band.
Are we gonna get your characters on bicycles?
Just the never-ending bicycle tour from Monty Python.
It could be a good gang in the post-apocalypse, the bicycle gangs. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
the
But
Dutch
I
post-apocalypse. Come on.
I will fuck. No, I love your idea. I really do.
Sounds awesome. All right. Dakota, anything else you want to ask or share on that one? I mean, it sounds like a solid foundation, but just that it's still just that core that you'll still need to build a lot more on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything like in at this very moment. But yeah, no, thank you.
Okay. And what was the title?
I actually don't have one at the moment, but the working one it currently is Nailhead, because that is the
Nailhead.
nickname for the car. Nailhead, because that is the nickname for the car that they had. That's a real nickname for that kind of car. It was called that because of how the engine made it sound like nails.
All right, understood. Well, I will read it in the chat just in case anyone has more title suggestions for your post-apocalypse, post-rapture comedy, I guess we'll call it. All right, so we have just a little time. Anyone else have a question or something to bring up before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, one more thing. I had have you ever seen the work of John Martin?
Not sure. What has he made?
The Great Day of His Wrath. He made biblical paintings. So I think
no, thank you.
like
No, I'm not familiar.
yeah, it would be fitting if you look up the Great Day of His Wrath. When you were talking about these guys were driving to this other place to get to find the seal. Forget.
There we go.
That's what I was picturing.
I see. Yeah, one of these scenes that looks like takes place at the creation or the destruction of the earth.
It's the Great Day of His Wrath. It's Revelations. He does all of Revelations.
All right, thank you for that. Any last questions, thoughts, comments? Loglines? Okay, if not, we will wrap up now. Thank you all for being here. We're looking forward to seeing you more for the next class in the course, which is week 1. That will be also free and public and will be in the same time slot next week, Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. We also have the upcoming session of the Sunday feature bootcamp, action horror theme, Sundays 11 a.m. And then novel bootcamp, Saturday, tomorrow from 12 to 2, running in that time slot until the end of the year. Sign up, go to any Discord channel on our Scriptcamp and any text channel on Scriptcamp and type in !bootcamp like Nacho has just done in the text chat, and you can find all the links to the upcoming bootcamp sessions. Just click on one of those, type your name in and your email, and you will get that instant access to those member exclusive channels, and you will get your Bootcamper Discord role. Thank you, everybody. We'll look forward to seeing you soon for your next class or event. Have a great rest of your night.